Satang Prasanga.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, and welcome to today's session. How are you doing? I pray that all is well with you and your families at this time. So today we're moving on to the third part and final part of the letter to Jaya Gopala prabhu. And it is a very instructive, very powerful aspect of today's letter. So we catch the letter at this paragraph starting, regarding your question of an initiated person falling prey to the Maya. So before we address the point, a few days ago I was commenting on Prabhupada's books being edited, and we had a little bit of a discussion on that. So I wanted to bring out that point right here now. So we see Prabhupada is saying here, regarding your question of an initiated person falling prey to the Maya. You see the word the there? So this is natural in dialogue here in India. This is the way they speak. But for a first language English speaker, by saying the Maya, it's not grammatically correct. So should we correct this or not? If something like this is written in the books, these are letters, these are personal letters, so they're different. We're not looking at the grammatical mistakes, we're absorbing the message Prabhupada is giving us, the instructions. But in terms of his books, they are written for everybody to read. Now, if a scholar reading this is going to say, what is this, the Maya? This is not grammatically correct. So should you correct this or not? This was the point I was making on that day. There are these fine, slight errors, so to speak, that for us as devotees, this is like nectar. We don't even consider this as an error. For us, it's absolute nectar because this is Prabhupada first hand. But for somebody who's not a devotee and who's reading Prabhupada's books and reads this, what is your impression? That this person is an author but he can't write grammatically correct? Now do you understand my point? Okay, so we move on to the context of the letter today, and Prabhupada starts here by saying, regarding your question of an initiated person falling prey to the Maya. So, in the beginning of the first canto, in the fifth chapter, moving onwards, Narada Muni's story, and then how he related to Vyasadeva, that you spoke all about Karma Kanda. Actually, last night I was listening to this lecture by Prabhupada, and he was saying that exactly the same saga. He was saying, Narada Muni was speaking to Vyasadeva and said, you spoke about encouraging people to take intoxication. Once a year they do some Devi Puja, and this is authorized in Vedas. You spoke about them eating meat. This is also authorized in Vedas. Once a month on Amavasya they worship Kali. The goddess Kali. And then you spoke about all these different things of enjoying their senses. This is karmi or karma kanda. Those who practice karma kanda or Vedic sense gratification, Prabhupada would call them karmis. So Prabhupada is saying that Narada Muni is telling Vyasadeva, you spoke all about these things, you're just encouraging people to stay here in this material world. What have you done to give them moksha, to get out of this material world? That can only happen if you spoke about the glories and the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Have you done that? No, my Lord, I haven't done that. So please write. So then he wrote Srimad Bhagavatam. In his maturity of realization, he wrote Srimad Bhagavatam. So in that, in his meditation, before he wrote, he was in a meditation, And in that meditation, he saw Krishna. Therefore, he is writing, Janmadiyasya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmadiyasya Yataha, in first verse of Bhagavatam. So he saw Krishna, but he also saw Maya next to. So Prabhupada was saying in this lecture that Krishna and Maya are right next to each other. Therefore, as soon as we leave Krishna, she's right there to catch us. She's right there, she's already waiting. So she's not gone anywhere separate, because that is her service to Krishna, to make sure that those who are miscreants, duskritinas, that they stay here, because they haven't developed the spiritual consciousness yet of service. The consciousness that is required is of service, that we are eternal servants of Krishna. So here we are still in the enjoying mood, therefore we are not ready to go back. So she makes sure that we stay here. So he's asking what happens regarding those who are initiated now. Somebody who's taken seriously to the process but has a problem somehow and has fallen back into the illusion. So Prabhupada is commenting here. The answer is that so long as we are in this material world, there is always a chance of being spoiled by Maya. So it's not that only initiated or uninitiated, great personalities. Bharat Maharaj, on the level of Bhava Bhakti, he fell down. They are great examples. These are not ordinary people. They're practicing deep bhakti. How can they fall down? So the answer giving in scripture is that Sango Tyaga Sato Vrite Satvir Bhaktir Prasiddhyati. That unless you stay with Sangha, with the right Sangha, because by association you become polluted, and so too by association you become liberated. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is the predominant teaching that he gave, that stay away from worldly minded people. Asatsange Vaishnavachara. Asatsange. Don't associate with those who are not following satsang, truth. Don't associate with worldly minded people. So if we keep to that instruction by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prabhupada is saying the same thing. As soon as we deviate from that, we see Maya is right there to catch us. As soon as we associate with worldly minded people, worldly minded thoughts, worldly minded ideas, immediately Maya is there to catch us. So we got to be very careful. We were saying this, that how did Maya catch Bharat Maharaj? She caught him out of compassion that he had for the deer. Can you imagine such a powerful, sweet thing, emotion like compassion for someone? Maya used that against him to pull him down. This is the power of Maya. So she's right there next to Krishna. It's not that she's in a different jurisdiction. So if we're conscious of that, we're able to always take shelter of Krishna. And this is what Prabhupada is saying. So we must stick with the vow to the lotus feet of Krishna. This is the thing. We take Abhay Charan, we take shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. This is our only solace. Without Krishna's shelter, nothing else. Where else is there shelter? Everything else is prone to the modes of nature. Everything else is prone to this material world, even the demigods. So Krishna's lotus feet is the only thing that can transcend this material world. Prabhupada goes on to say, an initiated devotee is given the chance for becoming free from the entanglement of karma wheel. So the samsara, we sing this in the morning, samsara dava. So the cycle of birth and death, this samsara, this is our real problem. Everything else is a symptom of that problem. So Prabhupada goes on to say, initiated means beginning, not perfection. So to initiate something means to start something. So now that we initiated, do you think somebody now is so pure that he's transcended the laws of nature and transcended the illusionary energy? No. Not at all. Not at all. So Prabhupada is saying initiated means start. So the person has started, but he has to constantly take shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna by following the instructions of the spiritual master. And Prabhupada mentions that here. The spiritual master's business is to guide him to the perfectional point. That's what Guru is for. So whatever instruction is giving you is meant to guide you to the spiritual point. But if one does not strictly follow the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, his initiation does not bear any meaning. Wow! That's one of the strongest points I've ever heard, and Prabhupada is saying, if you're not following the instruction of the spiritual master, what is the meaning of your initiation? It doesn't bear any meaning. Wow, that is very strong. So we just take a year to meditate on that. Phew. That is really powerful. That point needs meditation. Prabhupada goes on to say, the initiation performance is an agreement by the disciple to abide by the order of the spiritual master. So it's an agreement by the disciple that I will listen to what you say. And then when the Guru is giving instruction and we don't listen, we break the agreement, we breach the agreement. So it's a very powerful thing. Prabhupada goes on to say, therefore, if the spiritual master is bona fide and the disciple is serious to abide by his order, then the success is sure. So if you have a bona fide spiritual master and you have a bona fide disciple, then success is sure. But if one, especially the disciple, is not willing to listen to the instructions, then what can be done? The Guru is trying his best. Prabhupada goes on to say, but if a disciple follows strictly the devotional way of life, he is no longer a karmi, and all his activities, which may appear to be like ordinary work, or it may be activities according to the scriptural injunctions, are counted as devotional service. So everything you do now starts becoming devotional service, just because you're following the guidance of the spiritual master according to what Krishna is saying scripturally. So it's a very, very powerful point to protect us from the danger of falling into illusion. Prabhupada goes on to say, and devotional service in all circumstances is free from the actions and reactions of karma. So where have we seen this? This Prabhupada is quoting from the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. At the beginning of the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada talks about, or Krishna mentions about the 3 kinds of karma. Karma, akarma, vikarma. So karma is fruitive activity. Vikarma is negative activity where you're getting bad reaction or wrong activity, wrongdoings. And akarma is action but in devotional service. You're not getting any result from it materially, but you're doing devotional service to Krishna. So that's very, very powerful. So Prabhupada quotes that there. I hope this will clear the matter. Your ever well-wisher A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So this concludes this very, very powerful letter, which we've done for 3 days now, because it's so instructive and so deep. I hope we've learned something by sharing this point about illusion and Maya, and we've learned to take shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna, following the instructions of the spiritual master. So I hope you have a good day today. Please join us again tomorrow. Hare Krishna.